He is so seasoned. He drank all those beers and drove home.
He did. He was, yeah. He's
He
a
was
method.
fun.
He's method.
How would you like to be a rich and famous actor for the rest of your life?
Am I going to be in an actual movie?
You're going to be playing famous Hollywood actor Huckle Saxton.
Huck's dead.
I was speaking to James, I don't know if you call him James or Jimmy yesterday.
Yep.
And one of the things that I said to him that he thought was really funny, I said it was almost like a B-movie take on Quentin Tarantino's latest movie in a way. You see that bit of that?
Yeah,
Really good point. Wow. I guess so. Right.
Now that I think about it, you're right. It is.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't know. We of course would have had no idea Tarantino was going to do that.
It was about 5 years ago that you came up with the idea, no?
It's crazy when we say that, Howard. When you say 5 years ago, I'm like, really? But yeah. But the really great thing about having something incubate for that long is you really see the holes in it, number one, and I mean just the holes as far as people entertaining, enjoying it, but then you also start to see the layers, and when you get talented people like the actors we had, like Jimmy Duvall and C. Thomas Howell, I mean all of our cast, it takes on its own life. It's not yours anymore. They take over the role, and you're just like, did we write that? Okay, all right,
But at the same time, it must be, after 5 years of going over the same script, and you must kind of second guess yourself a lot.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Go ahead, Spain.
Sometimes we did, but a lot of it was just like, all right, one of my favorite directors is Frank Henenlotter. He doesn't really work anymore, but in the 80s, he made a few movies. Frankenhooker, Brain Damage, Basket Case. He made Basket Case. He shot a little, showed it off, raised a little more money, etc. And I thought back when I was a kid, wow, that might be me one day. I might have to shoot a little and get some investors excited, and it's kind of what happened. So while you say some of it would be like, well, let's tinker with this, let's look at that, it was more about just trying to finish it and make sure that we had the same energy that we did, shoot a little here, let's raise some more money, shoot the rest. Now let's get the last bit of money, edit it. So there was not too much second guessing. It was mostly about just making sure that, hey, we've got 60%. We got to finish this. Now we've got 80%. Right. And people are like, wow, this thing is getting better every time you guys get in there. And it was never really so much as reshoots, but more as just getting those last moments. Like, sure, we could have truncated it more and released it in 77, 80 minutes, but there's some really cool things in it that we were like, okay, now we can do this.
It feeds on the basest of human emotions: anger, rage, jealousy.
Some things are worth more than money.
Hatred.
I can feel it.
Anything evil.
What is going on?
I got the feeling that you certainly had a kind of a chip on your shoulder with Hollywood. Or is that just because you wanted a scapegoat for the comedy?
Yeah, no, Howard, I certainly did. I mean, there's kind of two versions of the film. Spain and Drew were working on, they had the idea, beast mode, wanted to take on Hollywood, definitely wanted to be a physical effects, practical effects, monsters, masks, that kind of stuff. I went a different route than Spain did. I went through the studio system. So I got to see the best and the worst, buddy. You see the A-list star who you love. It's horrible to meet your heroes sometimes because you meet them and you're just like, God, they're such awful people. Yeah. But then there was a certain amount of irony surrounding it all. Like the idea that people are referred to as below and above the line. It's so insane. And so so that whole principle to me, coming from the Midwest, Ohio and the US, and that's just not how I was raised and how I thought. So I quickly had to adapt my mentality to like, oh, well, we can't bother these people because they're above the line. Yeah. And yet everyone doing 90% of the work is below the line. And so you're sitting, it's just kind of like, it's like the government works. It's like everything in the world. So it became, I don't know if it was necessarily a chip on the shoulder, but I certainly wanted to point a spotlight on all of the hypocrisy and the absurdity and ask the question, why do we accept this? Like, and you know, because these people are basically monsters. They're just human monsters. I've worked on some Tom Cruise movies, and Tom Cruise is catering because he has it's not his company, but part of his deal, at least when I worked, was that he brought his, you know, this is the catering company you use because it's the best food in the. So I literally was eating better food at work like for 2 years than I could even afford to get. You know? So you know, I'd be double stacking. I'm like, I'll save it. Yeah, exactly, Howard. I'll save this for later. I got this for tonight. We're like, I'll put this plate on my. I'm like, I hope that stays good in the sun. You know, it's just like crazy. You know, and then you see them just pouring filet mignon and salmon, you know, fresh caught salmon into trash cans.
Trash
can,
you know, caviar into the trash.
Yeah, and the assistants are like running over with their hands, grabbing what morsels we can that are left. It's like, not for you. This is garbage now. So all of that, you know, really kind of played into. We definitely are humble, and we definitely understand how absurd all of this can be.
I see it as a midnight movie that you want to watch with a group with some beers, and there's going to be a few moments of gore that might gross a few people out, but mostly you're going to be laughing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and the horror elements, Howard, as far as that goes, you know, I interestingly enough, Spain and I align so closely on what our tastes are, like our guilty pleasures. You know, sometimes, you know, it's like that old joke, what's your favorite movie? And someone says Dangerous Liaisons, or someone says, you know, The Lost Weekend. And, you know, but your real favorite movie is Weekend at Bernie's. You know what I mean? And so, like, Weekend at Bernie's a few times, yeah. Yeah, right. So we kind of like the Friends joke. So Spain and I, we aligned so closely on that there was just a real fine line between, like, yeah, we wanted it to feel like an 80s monster movie. Again, American Werewolf in London is one of my favorite films of all time. We knew we weren't going to capture the scares of that, but there's some real ironic comedy and humor in that film as well. Yeah. And so we thought we'd get a lot of legs out of the layers we were putting in and over Hollywood, that it's a horror show within itself. And, you know, it was hard for it not to descend into total comedy when we were taking on such larger than life, you know, people and, you know, an industry like that.
Was it difficult to find the casting? Did you get the actors that you wanted to choose? And were they kind of in the same situation? They felt the same way, that they wanted to kind of underscore what was going on in Hollywood a little bit?
I think so. C. Thomas Howell and Chris knew each other, so we approached him that way. Chris already had a working relationship with some of the previous films. One of our bartender buddies was like, Jimmy Duvall's always at the piano bar, which is no longer, and you guys should come up and meet him. He might be perfect for this. And he was. I knew right away. Because I've known Jimmy, not personally, but I've been watching his movies since I was younger. And to meet him was so fun, and we just got along immediately. And I knew that he could do both, Huckle and the Michael, and kind of start blending them together. And Jimmy's really seen it all. He's seen small, tiny, indie, just guerrilla shooting filmmaking, and he's also been on, you know, like ID4, like the big stuff. So he's seen both, so he appreciated the script. And Jimmy just doesn't do a movie if he doesn't like the script. And I think Ray Wise and C.T. Howell and everybody was like, look, the script doesn't make any sense, and it's just not anything that speaks to us. We're not going to do it. Yeah. So they weren't just doing it as favors. They definitely weren't doing it for the money.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah. When we got Ray Wise, Ray was really the only one that we contacted cold, because I had directed Leslie in a couple films, Leslie Easterbrook. I directed C. Thomas Howell in a couple movies supporting. And like Spain was saying, you know, we met Jimmy through friends, and Jimmy was like, he'd been with us all along, kind of like The Shining, the Overlook Hotel. Like, you know, you never left. You've always been here. And so Jimmy, you got to talk to him, Howard. You know how nice he is, and he's just such a sweet guy.
Well, so it was exactly the opposite of what you see in the film.
He is. Exactly the opposite. And you know, that never reared its head. The funny thing is, so we had all these big actors. So, you know, the scenes with all the trailers, like the shots with the trailers in the background and all that. Well, we wouldn't let the actors go in the trailers because we didn't rent the inside of the trailers. We only rented the facility so we could shoot them in the background. And I think the guy who owned the trailers was like, oh, you got me on this one. Because big set, which was, of course, the plan. That was the plan all along.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of funny. So there was never like the demand, that the way that Huckle treats people in the movie, inside the trailer and other things, calling names and all that. Our actors were awesome. The worst thing we had to worry about was Bobby Costanzo had a hard out to get to a poker game that night when we were shooting him downtown LA. He's like, all right, boys, is it done? Is it done yet? Or can I get out of here yet? I got a game I got to get to. I got to win some money. So that was literally the actors were unbelievably awesome to us. Maybe it's because we were working with such seasoned professionals, and maybe it's because we were fanboys ourselves of a lot of these actors. I mean, I was in love with Leslie Easterbrook when I was good, growing up, right? From Police Academy. I mean, who wasn't in love with Callahan? And so I'm still a little starstruck when I'm around those people. It's still just this weird, but which is healthy, I think. But in the same vein, we did not think Ray was going to do the movie. It was Ray was the one person that we didn't have any connections to. I literally cold emailed his manager, who could not have been more warm to the idea. And it was definitely not about the money, Howard. We tell you, trust us.
And he is so seasoned. He drank all those beers and drove home. He's awesome. He drank
MDV trivia later. Brilliant.
He did. He was, he's a method. Fun. He's method. Now, as far as improv goes, Howard, when someone like James Hong starts doing something, you just kind of sit back and go, the man's done more movies than I've seen, and I think I've almost seen every '80s movie ever made. So when he would, and obviously he improv some Chinese in that. We still don't know what he said, but we know it's really offensive.
Another character that I've just realized I totally neglected had very much to do with Spain. Can you tell me? It must have taken hours and hours to decide what kind of hair to wear.
Well, I think that I really grew up in a slightly beatnik family, some very hippie parents, and they were a big Andy Warhol fan. And I think when we decided we wanted to go red, she said, here it is, let's look at it. Before I go red, I just want you to know it's white, because that's where it came from the shop like that, and we'll get it red. Yeah, and I said, you know what? Maybe let's not color it. This is kind of cool. This is kind of different. I mean, it's not exactly that he's gray. It's just that he just has white hair. And no one has really understood it, and I love it.
Oh, that's great. It's a very Matthew Modine look. It's cool.
Yeah, exactly, Modine. Well, what's funny is, Howard, another fellow Brit, I believe, with your dual citizenship, he did a review on the film, and interestingly enough, he referred to Spain's wig as a Trumpian wig, which I thought was, I just thought it was hysterical. I'm like, who knew when we started this movie, number one, that the world was going to be what it is?
Yeah, we were filming with Obama in office.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So it was, anyway, that was kind of funny that we got that. And also all of those things led up to, why we decided, I think, for the sequel, and I know you haven't asked yet, but it's right in line, is we're going to take on politics in DC instead of Hollywood. And I think there's worse monsters there than there are in Hollywood. Everybody just wants to get laid and they want to feel good. And literally, they want to destroy your lives.
They turn into monsters because they are monsters.
It's like straight out of a movie.
It'll be a little more social commentary, but it'll be full parody of DC like you've never seen. I did a political comedy that was just for fun. It wasn't something to put out years ago. And I really had the itch to do that again.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's more or less like, what visuals do you want to see in DC and politics? Like for us, the way we're approaching it is, I want to see a Supreme Court justice in a tattered robe as a monster, smashing a gavel into pieces, and like different visual. Like we just start talking about these really funny. So it's really going to be like American Werewolf. So an American Werewolf in London meets Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
There was an action scene towards the end with Thomas Howell.
Yeah.
Which was just, it blew me away. Have you
Nice.
thought about doing an action film? Because that was just amazing. I don't know if it was the editing or you used like wires and stuff, but it was just blew me away, that action scene.
Nice.
We had awesome stunt. You know, I'll give all the credit to the stunt coordinator, Johnny. He just he did such a great job. You know, everybody. I think it's a strange thing because when people started to get involved in the project, it just drew more people to it when they realized we were having fun. And it wasn't, you know, we weren't doing a political commentary on the current zeitgeist. No. You know, it's like within a film, we weren't doing that. We were just making fun of everybody around all these people, right? And probably a lot of us, like you said, chip on the shoulder, although, you know, I don't think necessarily we had so much of that, but everybody does a little bit when you're dealing with these people. So, so in relation to that, yeah, I'm really excited to do more action stuff. You know, I think we're going to have much larger action sequences in the sequel. And moving forward, I have some really amazing stunt friends that are in the industry. Hank Amos, who does a lot of the Marvel stuff. Yeah, and so he's wonderful, and he's a director as well. And so, you know, we have some stuff planned with him, and we definitely want to continue to grow into, you know, I don't want to say bigger films, just expand into things that we haven't done yet. Yeah. Make bigger scenes. I think that's a better way to put it.
Is there anything that you would have liked to have added that you've kind of realized about the business since lockdown? Because I imagine things have changed big time in the Hollywood and in the film industry, no? The
one thing I would have done, which I know is happening all the time now on set, is temperature taking and all of so, you know, and again, it's a really weird thing, Howard, because you start making fun of stuff and then you're like, wait, I'm making fun of us. And then you're like, I'm making fun of what we're doing in the world we're like in. But yes, it's layers up that we're really mocking. But
so you don't want to date yourself too much so people go, oh, this movie must have come out in 2020 because they're doing that.
And I certainly don't want to make fun of the tragedies that have surrounded all this kind of stuff. But you know, the idea that that masks wearing and not wearing has been politicized and all this crazy world that we're all in. I'm really happy we shot it before the pandemic because I really like that it represents the old 80s world. You know, the world, the world before, like my son says, he's just like, remember the good old days, 2019? And I'm just like, yeah, I sure do, the good old days.
Something that I've noticed, especially during the pandemic on social media, is people don't appreciate as much self-aware humor, self-aware jokes, because people are just taking everything so damn seriously.
Right.
Is that something you're going to have to factor in, or are you just going to go with the flow?
We're just going to go for it. This one might take us 10 years to finish, but whatever. I mean, it's like, well, the funny thing is, and you're right, Howard, it's like we certainly need to see the reception. If there's zero demand for something, I don't know how you get it made. But we do feel we've had a nice response. And I think that I think that the audience that's going to find this film and that would maybe validate or make sense of actually making another one is the audience that's us. Like we love this kind of stuff. VFW, as soon as VFW was out, Spain, he's like, hey, this is not the greatest film I've ever seen. You got to see this. And like, we love these movies. So we will pay for them. We will see them. We will buy them. We will rent them. And I guess we just have to hope that there's still enough of us around.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Howard. I'm glad you mentioned that, Howard, because it's been such a rough year. I think that when people rent this in a few weeks, they're going to go, when the credits roll, they're going to go, you know what? That was really funny, and I needed that.
Well, it's a brilliant place to leave everything. We're running out of time. Thank you so much for Spain and Chris for your time. I really appreciate it. I've had a really good time, a good laugh. And I wish you the best of luck with the film. I hope it resonates with people as much as it has done with me. And
you guys will have the exclusive when we get part 2 rolling.
Oh, I hope so. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed in 10 years. Thanks, Howard.
Stay safe in confinement, and best of luck. And I hope to speak to you about the next film if we get there.
Oh, yes, you will, my friend.